1999. It truly is the ultimate year for movies, and the first immersive, groundbreaking, astonishing piece of filmmaking that year arrived in theaters on the final day of March. Sure, there were some good and even great films released in the first 3 months of 1999. She's All That is a lot of fun, and Office Space is a now iconic workplace comedy despite it flopping at the box office. Cruel Intentions is another all-timer released at the beginning of March and featuring Sarah Michelle Gellar's finest performance in the movies. But nothing really blasted off this remarkable year in film quite like The Matrix, directed by the Wachowskis. A brilliant concept, gorgeous visuals, stunning action sequences, mind-bending storytelling. The Matrix kind of came out of nowhere to wow audiences around the world and is looked at 25 years later as one of the main reasons 1999 was such a spectacular year for cinema. The Matrix in many ways revitalized the action genre, gave major boosts to the careers of its directors and main stars, and paved the way for 3 more sequels, 2 that arrived in 2003, and another that came a little bit later, 2021. Another thing The Matrix did in early 2000, take the Oscars by storm, of course. No, not in the top 8 categories, sadly. Although The Matrix would have made for incredible nominations in Best Picture, Director, and Original Screenplay, the Academy did snub it there, unfairly I would say. The Matrix did so well in its 4 technical categories, you can't help but wonder if the movie would have earned additional gold trophies if it could have just been nominated elsewhere. Where else should it have gotten in? What was it up against in its 4 nominated categories? And where else did the film show up that award season? In today's video on this landmark film's 25th anniversary, we're talking The Matrix at the Oscars, and I have the great Cody DERICKS from Next Best Picture with me today to help me break everything down. Sit back, relax, and let's get started. After the Wachowskis' 1996 feature film debut Bound proved to be a small success with critics and audiences, Warner Brothers moved ahead on The Matrix, which was originally pitched to Will Smith to play the lead role. He decided to do Wild Wild West instead. And eventually, Keanu Reeves came on board. Along with Lawrence Fishburne, Carrie-Anne Moss, and Joe Pantoliano, The Matrix telling of a computer hacker Neo who discovers the truth that humankind is trapped inside a simulated reality, and Neo joins a hard-fought rebellion against the machines. Filming on The Matrix began in March 1998 in Sydney, Australia, and wrapped in August, principal photography lasting 118 days. The movie opened on Wednesday, March 31st, 1999, and went on to gross nearly $40 million in its first 5 days, making it at the time the highest grossing weekend in April and on Easter weekend. The Matrix ultimately earned $171 million in the United States and $463 million worldwide, making it the 4th highest grossing film of the year, behind Star Wars Episode I: The Phantom Menace, The Sixth Sense, and Toy Story 2. Critics went nuts for the movie, Entertainment Weekly calling it the most influential action movie of the generation, with the film currently at 83% on Rotten Tomatoes with more than 200 reviews. Audiences have gone on to embrace the film even more, with The Matrix, as of this recording, number 17 on IMDb's top 250 movies list, right around, The Empire Strikes Back and Goodfellas. I, of course, adored the film upon its release that initial weekend, especially since I knew almost nothing about it going in. Back in 1999, you could go to a movie opening weekend pretty clueless about what you were about to watch, and such was always an exciting place to be. I think all I knew about The Matrix was that it was an action film starring Keanu Reeves, and that was it. I'm not sure I'd even seen a trailer, so oh my god, did this movie completely blow my mind, and has continued to do so for 25 years. Here's what Cody and I said about the film.
It's one of those movies that, as I've grown up, I've only found it richer and deeper as I've had more experiences myself, and I've noticed more things in the film and been able to reckon with and understand a lot more what the movie's going for. I think it's really easy to watch the movie and just not turn your brain off, but not activate it necessarily, and just really engage with the incredible filmmaking and action that's on display. But the genius of the film lies in the screenplay. for all the bells and whistles of the things we're going to talk about that the movie was nominated for and won, I really think the story is what's made the legacy so strong and was what was able to, birth a lot of sequels and franchise appeal and video games, is the genius story, the complex but smart and understandable screenplay.
Yeah, watching it again a few days ago, I was struck by how we really don't get to the big action scenes until the third act. And for most of the movie, it's about really powerful storytelling, great acting, characters you come to really care about. It's not just about the action, even though I feel like today that's what most people remember when they think about their favorite scenes. There's like 3 or 4 action sequences in this that still blow your mind 25 years later. But I was struck by how long it takes to get to those moments and how it's way more about the story and the characters. So with The Matrix doing as well as it did with critics and at the box office, it seemed possible it could do well during the 2000 award season, even though it was released fairly early in the year and was an R-rated genre film. Could it actually get into Best Picture at the major award ceremonies? An acting category, perhaps? Original screenplay? It definitely was a maybe, I would say, but remember, 1999 was an abundance of riches at the movies, with dozens of great films competing for those year-end awards, and so it was going to be difficult for The Matrix to break in. As it turned out, The Matrix was completely ignored at the Golden Globe Awards, Critics' Choice Awards, and SAG. It couldn't snag a screenplay or director nomination at Golden Globes, or what would have been an incredible SAG Ensemble nomination. Did The Matrix deserve to get in at these early precursor ceremonies?
So the Golden Globes, as they operate besides score and song, really only award things that we consider above the line at the Oscars. So that's going to be picture, directing, writing, and acting. And all those things are not factors that were being considered for The Matrix, at least awards-wise. And same at SAG. Acting is just not really valued, even to this day. Things like Mad Max Fury Road don't get nominated. Black Panther was nominated and won a few years ago, but that was as much a prize to the film as a whole and a beloved, well-cast ensemble as it was to their action performances. If there was a stunt category at SAG back then, I have to think this would be nominated and probably win.
Thankfully, BAFTA and the Oscars saved the day, with The Matrix first scoring 5 nominations at BAFTA: Best Cinematography, Production Design, Editing, Sound, and Special Visual Effects. Now, it only won 2 prizes at BAFTA, Sound and Visual Effects, so arguably The Matrix ended up faring better at the 72nd Academy Awards on March 26, 2000. This Oscar ceremony took place almost to the day The Matrix had opened in theaters 1 year earlier, and it was time to see it win some big prizes. Now, again, this monumental film didn't get into any of the top 8 categories, like Picture, Director, Original Screenplay, but can we really be sad or surprised about the Oscar omissions for The Matrix? Here's what Cody said.
I mean, I think this should have conquered, like, Fury Road or Dune, personally. I think it should have been applauded and given accolades for its direction. The picture itself, obviously. I even think the screenplay, which is not the kind of screenplay that the Oscars love, is ideal sci-fi storytelling. Again, cinematography, production design, costume design, basically everything. Score, this could have gotten into, 10 categories, and I think that would have aged so well. But I do love the idea of it getting these 4 categories, which is a lot for a film like this back then, and winning all 4 of them. That's just, it's one of the best things the Oscars has done. And the thing about the 99 Oscars awarding the films of 1999, everybody knows 1999 has gone on to be recognized as one of the greatest film years of recent memory. It is just a wonderful time to be alive and go into theaters. Lots of films that have aged so well, become part of the fabric of pop culture. But, and this is also kind of a well-known idea amongst Oscar lovers like us, that's not necessarily represented at the Oscars. The Best Picture lineup is kind of mediocre for such a great film year. I think personally The Insider and The Sixth Sense are head and shoulders above everything else in that category. But, on the other hand, giving 4 Oscars to The Matrix is one of the coolest things the Academy's ever done. So, you have this okay Oscar lineup that has some really great decisions from the voters behind it.
The other shocking omission, I would say, is Best Cinematography, which The Matrix 100% should have been nominated in at the Oscars, like it was at BAFTA. I like the cinematography nominees at this year's Academy Awards ceremony, but was there room for The Matrix? I mean, you look at the nominees, and it's hard to say what you would take out. I have never seen snow falling on cedars.
No, nobody has.
So... I don't want to say anything negative about it. I don't know much about it. I think Ethan Hawke is the lead. It was like a late 99 release that kind of tanked and didn't go anywhere. So I wonder if that could go and The Matrix gets in. I don't think The Matrix could have beaten American Beauty in cinematography. Conrad L. Hall was a legend at this point, and that film went on to win Best Picture. So I feel like American Beauty still probably wins. But it would have been cool to have seen The Matrix get into cinematography at the Oscars. So what categories did The Matrix actually get nominated for and win at the Oscars? They were film editing, sound effects editing, and visual effects. Let's start with visual effects, which I do think The Matrix was always winning. Like, how could it not? The film was up against Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace, and wait for it, Stuart Little.
I think, and again, I haven't dug into what was expected to win or the precursors with detail because these are below the line, further down races. I have to imagine, based on the money it made and the legacy of the films, that Star Wars is probably very much considered a contender in this and the two sound categories. And we haven't experienced the, 5 divisive films to come after it. We still think of this at the time as like, it's Star Wars. It's a movie that everybody likes, and there was a backlash at the time, obviously, right away. But it's still a prestige franchise, whereas The Matrix is this newer film that came out before Star Wars. Star Wars was a May movie, I believe, and didn't make as much money, but is, again, undeniable work.
I do think if Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, could have won something, visual effects make sense. I mean, think what you want of that movie. Like, some of those sequences are pretty astonishing. I mean, the pod race scene. So I think The Matrix was just so bonkers incredible in its effects. At the end of the day, they couldn't go with Star Wars here. I mean, there are some shots. That shot of Trinity swinging into the building as the helicopter is exploding behind her made my jaw drop a few days ago. It was like, oh my god, that is one of the most astonishing visual effects shots I've ever seen. And it's from 25 years ago.
Exactly. Working in tandem also with the cinematography and the editing and the sound.
Yeah.
All just working to deliver this film in as good a condition as possible. And they nailed it.
The Matrix also seemed to shoe in both of its sound categories with no clear second place. In the simply titled Best Sound, the other nominees were The Green Mile, The Insider, The Mummy, and again, The Phantom Menace. I have to give a shout out to The Mummy. I love The Mummy with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. This is the film's only Oscar nomination in Best Sound. I don't think it was ever going to win, but I'm happy it's there, and that's an Oscar-nominated film. I feel like the only film that could have given The Matrix competition here was Star Wars again. And
agreed.
It's like they just decided collectively, let's just give this to The Matrix all the way down. Like, let's not consider the Star Wars. I don't know. You think Star Wars could have won one of these 3? It was up against The Matrix for.
I have to imagine it is a dangerous game to imagine the mentality of an Oscar voter, especially 25 years ago. But I have to imagine a lot of voters probably went, The Matrix should win visual effects. It looks amazing. And then they look at their other places on the ballot where it's a contender, and if you think about it for more than 10 seconds, it should win all those categories. And
in sound effects editing, the film was up against Episode 1 again, and David Fincher's Fight Club. Again, I love that Fight Club is here. That is that film's only nomination. Fight Club was very divisive. I loved it. It was in my top 5 films of 99. I still love it. And I feel like that should have gotten more attention come award season. It only got this one nomination at the Oscars. It's something, I guess. Are you sad Star Wars Episode 1 didn't win anything? Do you like that movie? The first one, the first prequel?
It's not a good movie. Let's not pretend. It's not a good movie. I have affection for it. I watched the videotape a lot as a child, but the movie on the whole, I'm so sorry, Episode 1 Defenders, does not work. But the sound editing is quite good, and I love The Matrix, but I wouldn't be too sad if the sound editing had specifically been singled out. The special effects they created and chose for that film are fantastic. Not just the classic Star Wars sounds, lightsabers, pew-pew laser guns, all sorts of things like that, but the pod racing and the aliens speak and all sorts of ship sound effects. It's pretty immaculate. The Matrix sounds amazing. I would say it probably won for its gun sound effects. And you see that happen a lot with sound editing specifically. They like war, they like guns. But again, The Matrix is a great winner here, and I like it having all 4 of its wins. I'm not going to object too strongly.
Finally, The Matrix also took Best Film Editing, which might be the single coolest Oscar win at the 72nd Academy Awards. Prepare yourself for the stats about this category Cody has up his sleeve.
It was the first Best Film Editing winner that didn't have a Best Picture nomination since, at the time, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, about 10 years before.
Wow.
And the last before that was from the 60s. There's only been 14 I know. There's only been 14 total Best Film Editing winners that aren't Best Picture nominees, including films after The Matrix. For a non-Best Picture nominee to get 4 wins, there's only been 6 films total ever in the history of the Oscars that were not Best Picture nominees that got 4 or more wins. There's 5 movies that got 4, including The Matrix, which is the most recent, and the one with the most of all time is The Bad and the Beautiful, with 5 wins back in 1952. We have not had a film that was not a Best Picture nominee since The Matrix to get 4 or more wins. It's just unprecedented stuff then and now.
No movie since The Matrix has gotten 4 or more wins without a Best Picture nomination?
Correct.
That's
it's
insane.
Wild.
At the Oscars in film editing, The Matrix was up against American Beauty, The Cider House Rules, The Insider, and The Sixth Sense, all 4 films nominated in Best Director and Best Picture. 4 Best Picture nominees, and The Matrix wins. Pretty freaking awesome. Right?
It's incredible. I mean, again, this category was going to Best Picture winners a lot in this decade, not just nominees. And also, when you look at the Best Picture winner, American Beauty, that film has really noticeable editing. So it's really surprising to me, looking back, that it didn't win this category.
Yeah, I feel like most people were probably predicting American Beauty to win there. Oftentimes, as you said, film editing and picture go together, and it makes sense. It is a movie where you notice the editing, American Beauty. It's not like it's just, it's the Best Picture frontrunner, and so we'll give it editing. Like, that would have made a lot of sense. And it's like, they went, no, we're going to go with, like, the really cool nominee here, The Matrix. So yeah, 4 nominations and 4 wins for The Matrix. I would say that's taking the Oscars by storm. I mean, look at how many cutaways we got to Keanu Reeves during those 4 award presentations. All that was missing was him saying, whoa. Only one other movie that year took home more than 4 Oscars, American Beauty, which won 5, including Best Actor, Best Director, and Best Picture. But when you think about how many astonishing, groundbreaking films we got throughout 1999, it's pretty great, I would say, that The Matrix, of all movies, received the second most Oscar wins that year. And that wasn't the end of the awards run for The Matrix. It also won 2 Blockbuster Entertainment Awards in acting for both Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne. And at the 2000 MTV Movie Awards hosted by Sarah Jessica Parker that summer, The Matrix finally won the top prize. Not only Best Male Performance for Reeves, but also Best Movie of the Year. What an amazing award season that was for The Matrix, and what a frickin' kick-ass movie it was upon its release, and still continues to be all these decades later. What is the film's legacy, according to Cody?
I think it totally holds up. And when this film year gets talked about as one of the great film years, it inevitably gets brought up early on in the conversation. Oh, and The Matrix came out that year. You have to talk about it when you talk about 1999. And I think, again, there is an argument to be made that this is the peak of cinema. You know, like the Titanic Matrix era is kind of the best of the best when it comes to filmmaking on the whole. Not to say there aren't great films now. Dune Part 2. It's in theaters now. Go see it. But The Matrix, it's just exceptional action filmmaking and filmmaking in general. The amazing thing about it is that every time I watch it, I find something new. There are still new mysteries to unravel, new details to kind of look into, new things to see on the screen. There were like 3 new things I saw for the first time on this watch, and this was one of probably up there in the 20s in terms of view counts for me with The Matrix. And that's, I think, a mark of a great film, is when there's so much intention and detail and affection for the audience put into the film. And that's clearly true with The Matrix.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Happy 25th birthday to the 4-time Oscar-winning action movie masterpiece that is The Matrix. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and if you want access to the full hour-long discussion I had with Cody DERICKS about The Matrix, head on over to the Awards Contender Patreon page. I have provided a link in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time at the Awards Contender.